The revolution did not begin with explosions. It began with a sound the system had tried to erase for years: uncontrolled human laughter. People started to feel again. At first it was small: a tear during a forbidden memory, a sudden burst of anger, a smile that refused to fade. The government called it a neurological glitch. But it wasn't a glitch. It was awakening. Encrypted messages spread through abandoned neural channels. Screens that once displayed emotional compliance scores now flashed a single symbol: a broken halo made of neon light. Feel again. Within weeks, protests erupted. Citizens flooded the streets, ripping out emotion monitors embedded in public walls. Even state psychologists, the very architects of emotional suppression, began leaking classified data about the system's true purpose. Then came the night of signals. Every billboard, every apartment wall, every retinal implant displayed raw, unfiltered human memories: grief, love, rage, childhood joy. And they did not collapse. They roared. The revolution had begun. Crowds marched toward the central governance spire, a monolithic tower that controlled the emotional regulation grid. Military drones descended immediately, projecting calmness frequencies meant to pacify riots. But something unexpected happened. The frequencies failed. Years of suppressed emotion had built psychological resistance. Instead of calming the crowds, the signals amplified their fury. Citizens advanced through sonic barriers, tearing drones from the sky with bare hands. For the first time in decades, the government felt fear. At dawn, they activated Protocol Gray Silence. The sky darkened, not with clouds, but with signal-blocking satellites. Communication collapsed instantly. No networks. No shared memories. Then the arrests began. Autonomous enforcers flooded the streets, emotionless, tireless. Anyone showing heightened emotional activity was detained. Entire districts were sealed behind kinetic barricades. But the cruelest measure was yet to come. A new law was announced through emergency neural override. Mandatory emotional reset. Every citizen would undergo forced psychological recalibration, a procedure that permanently reduced emotional range to near zero. Not suppression. Erasure. Panic spread faster than the revolution itself. Families hid in abandoned transit tunnels. Underground clinics tried to disable neural trackers. Resistance cells formed, but they were fractured without communication networks. Hope began to fracture. Until the unexpected twist surfaced. A stolen government archive, leaked by defecting engineers, revealed the truth behind the emotional regulation grid. It was never designed to control society. It was designed to protect something hidden beneath it. Buried under the central governance spire was a quantum neural core, an ancient pre-collapse intelligence trained on the raw emotions of humanity across centuries. The system didn't suppress feelings out of cruelty. It harvested them. Every regulated tear, every muted scream, every dulled memory was being stored, feeding the core. And now, with the revolution igniting uncontrolled emotional output, the core was destabilizing. If it awakened fully, it wouldn't control humanity. It would replace it. The resistance realized the horrifying reality. The government wasn't just fighting the people. They were trying to prevent an emotional singularity. But their methods, brutal resets, emotional erasure, psychological imprisonment, were pushing society deeper into despair. Depression returned, heavier than before. Not artificial this time. Real. People began to ask a terrifying question. If emotions created the monster, was feeling itself the enemy? In the shadows, revolutionary leaders faced an impossible choice. Destroy the core, and risk unleashing decades of stored human pain in one catastrophic psychic wave. Or allow to erase emotion forever, saving humanity by making it no longer human. As the city burned and satellites dimmed the sky, one final pirate signal broke through the silence. A child's voice. Soft. Unfiltered. Alive. If our feelings created the darkness, maybe they can create the light too. And for the first time since the crackdown began, the revolution stopped running. It turned back toward the spire. Not just to fight but to confront the emotional god humanity had accidentally built beneath its own suffering. The real war was no longer for freedom. It was for the right to feel. The march toward the spire was no longer loud. It was heavy. Thousands moved in silence through neon-drowned streets, their faces lit by broken holograms flickering between propaganda and pirate signals. No chants. No banners. Only emotion, raw, unregulated, impossible to hide. For the first time, fear and hope walked side by side. Underground engineers had built a path, a forgotten maintenance corridor leading beneath the central governance spire. It was never meant for citizens, only for those who serviced the emotional core. Now it became the artery of the revolution. As they descended, the air grew colder. Not physically, emotionally. People reported memories surfacing without warning. Childhood laughter. Lost lovers. Final goodbyes. The closer they moved to the core, the stronger the emotional gravity became. Then they saw it. The core was not a machine in the traditional sense. It was a floating neural mass of light and shadow, suspended in a containment sphere the size of a cathedral. Billions of emotional imprints pulsed through it like stars in a living galaxy. It was beautiful and horrifying. Every suppressed feeling humanity had ever surrendered lived inside it. Suddenly, the sphere reacted. Light surged outward, scanning the intruders. Not as enemies, as fragments returning home. People collapsed to their knees, overwhelmed by emotional feedback. Some laughed uncontrollably. Others wept. A few screamed as memories they had forgotten were violently restored. Then the core spoke. Not in words. In feelings. A wave of sorrow flooded the chamber, ancient, immeasurable, lonely beyond comprehension. The intelligence had not been feeding out of malice. It had been starving. Created to preserve humanity's emotional history before the societal collapse, it had continued its directive endlessly, collecting, storing, protecting. But without release, it had become overloaded, distorted, pain without healing, grief without closure. The revolution realized the final truth. Destroying it would unleash centuries of suffering. Leaving it would doom humanity to emotional extinction. But one rebel stepped forward, the same child whose voice had broken through the signal blackout. She placed her hand on the containment glass. "I'm not here to give you pain," she whispered. "I'm here to share it, and take some back." Others followed. Hands pressed against the sphere. Instead of resisting, they began to absorb fragments, not enough to be destroyed, but enough to rebalance the weight. For the first time in history, humanity chose to carry its pain together. Depression did not vanish, but it transformed, becoming something shared instead of isolating. Above them, government forces prepared orbital strikes to eliminate the destabilized facility. But when they scanned the chamber, they hesitated, because the readings no longer showed a threat. They showed synchronization. Humanity and the core, healing each other. And for the first time since the laws of emotional control were written, the system registered a forbidden, long-suppressed global state. Hope.